Portra 400. I haven't really shot it, but I've always wanted to shoot it. And it's coming up to the end of January, and I'm heading to the countryside for the weekend, so perfect opportunity to take it. And I'm mainly going to use it just on a dog walk. So it's not going to be the most exciting video, but still, I think some of these images turn out really nice. And with that, here's the first one. It's just a quick one of the garden. I just wanted to fire off the first one just to make sure that we're actually capturing some exposures. And then straight after that, I wanted to focus on the corner of the garden where we've got this little patio and nothing's really there at the moment other than this one chair. So I wanted to move it into the middle, isolate it, and see what we could get from it. And I grabbed this little shot, and I like it. I was surprised with the greens in this image. Everything came through a lot more muted than I thought that Portra was going to be. I mucked around with a couple of other ones, shooting in towards this mirror, and I really wanted to frame the chair within one of the actual grids, but I clearly completely missed that. I then wanted to get a bit of a vantage point. So here I am on top of the wall, I'm looking down, and the sun is creating a really nice shadow behind the chair. And this first one's got something to it. I'm not fully content on the branch that was breaking the frame in the bottom left. Originally I wanted something that would add some depth to the image, but instead I think it's just sort of getting in the way a little bit. And then I moved a bit further down the wall and I grabbed this second one, which I also really like. I don't think the angle was as interesting, but I think the actual composition in the image is better than the first one. I like them, I think they're a success. And just before I came inside, because it was getting a bit cold, I grabbed this final one, and for a pretty basic subject, I think it's quite a nice image. Time to head out and stretch the legs, take the dogs for a walk. And this is the very first shot I got on that walk. I am terrible at taking landscapes, and I guess this is a landscape shot. I find it hard to frame and compose something, because when you're shooting a portrait, you have it there right in front of you. The eyes are staring at you, you know what to focus on, you know how to roughly frame it. Whereas landscapes, it's just like, go on, have a crack, do your best. But at the end of the day, this is meant to be quite a calming image. And for me, I look at it and it's just a bit hectic. Too much detail in the image drawing the eye, and you can't actually focus on what matters. I like this bridge, I think it's cool. It's run down, it's tired, I would never walk on it, and if you ever bump into it, I suggest you do the same. It sort of looks like a bridge that you'd find in like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or Harry Potter. Even pressing the shutter button too hard on the camera could cause the bridge to collapse. But you've got this amazing sun streak coming from the top and the middle. And maybe because of that light leak, that's why we're not getting the same vibrancy and the punch of the colours that we'd expect and that we've been getting from the previous images. Talking of being terrible at landscapes, here's another one. And I would be interested to know, not that I shoot a lot of landscapes at all, but what film stocks would you use to shoot landscape? Straight after this, I turn around and see one of my dogs who is absolutely carnage. It's a complete contrast to this one. This one does not move, and I snap this. And I think that this image alone is what tested the film stock's dynamic range the most. And Daphne, the dog, had a huge shadow on her chest, and that was being caused by this massive sun behind beaming straight into the camera lens and causing a lens flare. So this really does put the film stock through its paces, and it does test the dynamic range, which is clearly there because there's still enough details in the shadow. And as I've learned the hard way, you cannot underexpose film, because if you don't get shadow detail, it just seems dirty and unusable. Coming up to the end of the walk, I caught these two. I like the first one more. I think there's a really nice separation between the oranges and the greens, and that is a running theme throughout this film stock. I think especially the time of the year as well. But as a cinematographer, what you tend to do is you look to try and split tone an image so you can create depth, and that is often done through oranges and teals. That's the sort of cinematic film look that you'd expect. Whereas in these, the greens and the oranges are really pulling apart nicely, and it's creating that same depth effect that a cinematographer would look for in their work. Just off the pond with these two trees, we see another classic example of the greens breaking apart from the oranges. Both these trees just look like lightning amongst the forest. So I do really like this image, and when I saw them all at the end, this was definitely one of my favourites. Here's a nice one I got a little bit earlier, but I wanted just to shoot it again. I found a little frame within a frame. It's a nice angle. Just here. Oh. Did that really happen to happen just then? I think it's a bit of a nothing shot. It's not my favourite. I think it's more of a nicer memory than it is a nicer photo. Day 2, and we drive through Petworth. Petworth is in West Sussex. And as we drove through, I caught this one shot of these two men who were sat at a local market on the edge. I also like to think when you capture people, you kind of make this little sub-story, and I just look at these two men and just think they've probably been friends for years and years. First photo of the walk, spotted by Jen. And I'm not great at textured shots, but this is a textured shot. With these lenses, the 35 Summicron, it only focuses down to 0.7 meters, and that's probably not really close enough with a 35mm to actually get much detail. So to capture a textured shot, you'd be better off using something else, something that could focus closer, or something that has a longer focal length.
Well done. We'll get the branch out your face. You're not going to move it off your face?
Do you want to talk to the camera about anything photography related? So you don't want to talk about, you know, any particular halations or vignettes or, you know, which ISO you decided to use, stuff like that. I don't know, just a couple of things.
You know what all those things mean, yeah?
Oh yeah.
So obviously you're an architect, so what you've just done is the equivalent of me going, do you want to talk about any bricks, any cement?
I can talk about bricks.
Some crayons?
I can talk about bricks. I'll tell you the size of a UK brick if you want me to. I can talk about the different courses of brick if you'd like, but never retains it, you see. So yeah. Pointless in a way. Quite nice.
This? What, anything in particular you're referring to?
If it were me, you see, I'd get in the thick of that. I'd get in the thick of it and I'd take a photo up, so.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I do actually.
This rubble here is what you're wanting to photograph.
Beauty in decay. If you've not looked at it, buy it, so.
Right, well, what are you going to do about this? Just taking a quick poo.
I actually want to go on the old...
Yeah, you go for it. Do your best.
On the old what?
Portrait mode.
Portrait mode? It's not an iPhone.
Steve had to figure some shit out.
What I'd like to do is get more in.
Ow!
Portrait mode. Does the Leica have... Fair play. Turned out alright, actually.
That was good, was it?
Change my tactic, but, you know.
Could be a bit flat and grey, but could be nice.
Straight after I took the train shot, I heard this roar of an engine. Turns out, it's this nice guy called Richard, and he has an incredible car collection. I'm a massive car nut, and that's what we do here at Make Pictures. We shoot a lot of sport, fitness, and automotive. So we've been able to film cars and drive cars that we will never be able to afford ourselves. And it's allowed us to travel some wicked places, shoot some awesome cars with amazing backdrop, and also meet some really interesting people. We had a look around his garage, had a really nice chat with him, and I caught this one here, this Porsche. The Porsche was absolutely gorgeous, probably my favourite car in there. I also caught this other one of the Mini, but the Mini didn't really come through. I took it at a 30th shutter speed, and you can see that it's just not sharp. I stayed as still as I could, and the light wasn't great in there, but it wasn't enough. And then finally, as we were leaving, I shot through the iconic Aston Martin DB5. It's got a really cool wooden steering wheel, and actually we've just shot for Aston Martin, where we shot their DB5 for the 60th birthday of the car. And it was driven from Beaverbrook in Surrey down to the Goodwood Revival. It's such an iconic car, and we were really happy with what we caught. The last few ones, the real, bumped into some friends, and I caught this one just looking up the hill. There's not a lot to it. I thought there might be something with the broken branch almost reaching out to join the tree, and also the grass pathway that's just disappearing into the distance. Again, landscape, I'm not great at it. And the final two images were caught this tree branch that was in the middle of a pond. The first one I don't love. I think that the holly is too dark. It's dirtying the image a little bit. It's not actually doing what it was meant to, which was create some blur and some depth. It just didn't really fall through. However, this second one, I really, really like it. And I would put this one in the top images from this reel. I love the way that it's still fairly sharp, but it carries a softness. And there's this glow that allows it to be centered into this frame. And it just draws the eye to this tree in the middle, which you're clearly wanting the viewer to look at. So that's it, Portra 400. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. I think it's a great film stock. I think it's a really, really good film stock. I don't think it's as good as its sister stock, Portra 800, but then again, it is cheaper than 800. And if you want to go cheaper than that, Portra 160 is a lot cheaper, and it's still a great film stock. I still stand by saying that Portra, I believe, is the highest quality film stock that I've shot. Yes, there are some in black and white that would test that, but I think in terms of color negative film, I think that Portra is the leading film stock that I would always choose to use on professional work. But anyway, that is it. I have always really enjoyed watching the sort of people that make this kind of content. I find it relaxing, I enjoy making a coffee with it, and just really sitting down and just kind of escaping the world and just planting myself into someone else's. So I hope that these videos do that for you, and I'll see you in the next one.